Hello guys, welcome to another session of Niger Hacks. So today we'll be talking about Active Directory penetration testing using Metasploit. So let's take a look at what Active Directory is and what they're used for. So Active Directory majorly is Microsoft answer to directory services. So it is used to manage connected devices within your network. It is used to store objects, to allow for easy access and management of resources within your network. So we are talking about resources like users, groups, computers, policies, and we're looking at certificates, application servers, database servers. These are all resources that could be managed within your Active Directory, and also reports have shown that a lot of enterprise organization leverage Active Directory as its directory service. So this also explains why it's a go-to list for attackers, because it contains a lot of sensitive information. Active Directory also relies on a lot of technologies, in order to perform certain functions. So Active Directory leverage LDAP, so it uses LDAP as its access protocol. So LDAP running on port 389 and LDAP secure on port 636. It also uses DNS, as its locator service. So what this means is that connected devices within your network can locate the domain controller by using DNS queries. So let's take a look at a graphical view of the various resources that could be stored within your Active Directory. As you can see, this contains sensitive information. You can see a list of computers, users, groups, that manage your users in an easy way. We can see policies, we can see organization units, we can see servers. So these are a bunch of sensitive information about your organization. So that also explains why it's very important we establish a very good security control within our Active Directory. So let's take a look at common attacks and techniques within the Active Directory. So the first is password in sysvolume and then group policy preference. The second is missing patch. So sysvolume, it's like an admin share within your Active Directory that contains logon scripts and some group policy information. So attackers look out for sysvolume to see if there are any sensitive information that they can leverage on. So missing patches. So this when we don't patch our Active Directory, it could be exploited. Of course, this is very important for us to, it's very important for us to ensure that we carry out patching on a regular basis. So the third form of attack is keb roasting. So this type of attack is used to crack encrypted password, using brute force technique. We also have SMB share. So SMB, as we know, is a protocol that is used for file share within your window network. So attackers also look out for open shares within your network and see what they could leverage on, and the last being mimikers, dumping credentials using mimikers. And this form of attack is growing by the day because it can leverage a legitimate window process like PowerShell, so you don't even need to install mimikers as an application. Attackers don't even need to do that. So they just need to call, the module, from a remote location, so it's mostly leveraged during fileless-based attack, right? So let's go on to talk about the attack kitchen for Active Directory. So just like every other form of attack, it always starts with a recon. You perform a recon on the Active Directory server to see what ports are open, what services are running on those ports, and the version of the services, if they are exploitable, right? So you just generally look out for as much information that you can gather. You can use vulnerability assessment tool to also assess the operating system if they are missing patches on the operating system, right? So once an attacker is able to compromise the machine, what happens is that it begins to perform what we call an internal recon, looking at, let's say, a local recon to say, okay, what are the list of users, domain users, groups, application services running on that machine, and to see if there's a way it could also leverage such information, So the next thing that the attacker will do after performing some sort of internal recon is to, I would say, create users, dummy users, and find a way to escalate privilege for that dummy users, because they want to have some sort of control, to be able to carry out certain operation on the Active Directory. So they will look out for ways to create users, and also escalate the privilege of that users to become, for example, from a local user to become a privileged user, right, within that server, right? So then the next thing that the attackers look out for is compromising credentials, admin credential within the Active Directory, enterprise credentials, domain admin credentials. So they look out for as much information as they can gather within that server. Of course, then the attackers will also start looking at how they can also perform remote code execution, from of course, like a CNC server, so and establish a backdoor, to that network. Then the overall purpose of this attack teaching, like I always say, is to establish domain dominance, to have access to as much sensitive information from different connected device, right? So let's take a look at. So this is a scenario of our lab, what we'll be going into. So we have an attacker running Kali. Then we have our Active Directory server. Then, of course, we have an application server. So you of course will agree with me that within specific network, the Active Directory always acts as a third-party authentication server that a lot of connected devices we have to get ticket granting tickets or the ticket granting service in order to have access to resources within application. So this is just a way to mimic what could happen within a real life scenario. So let's go on to, okay, so this will be our enumeration guide, what we are looking for, what we are trying to achieve, during this lab. So the first, of course, is to perform a recon. So gathering, performing like an nmap scan to look out for open ports and services, and also the version running on those services, right? So we are also going to perform like an nmap scan also to gather missing operating system patches, if possible. So of course, it's just basically to do a lot of scanning, to gather information gathering to see what could be out there, what is out there, what could be exploitable within the Active Directory. So then we are also going to, if possible, if we are able to discover vulnerabilities or within the Active Directory and we find a way to exploit it, then we'll begin to perform an internal recon, just like we saw on the attacking chain, to begin to enumerate certain information within the Active Directory, right? So let's quickly go on to our lab. So we start running all these procedures. So just a minute. Hello guys, so this is our lab, right? This is our attacker's machine, which is Kali. This is our Active Directory, right? Contains sensitive information, that stores objects. You can see users, you can see computers. I just have one connected system. This is tech server that is connected to the Active Directory. So this is the attacker, doesn't have any info. So the first thing we need to do, like I said, is the external recon. We're going to be using nmap to perform the external recon. So, we need to first discover what IP addresses are available on the network. So we'll use the net discover to do that. So we'll say net discover, right? Then, so to say this, we're able to scan out all possible IP addresses within our network. Then I think, okay, so this is, okay, so we can see now we have 192.168.8 network, can see .100, can see .103. So the IP address for the from our lab, the IP address is .103. So without wasting much time, let's go into, so you could see the IP address is live. So let's go on to run our initial scan. So I'm going to run an Nmap scan, a service scan on Nmap. So dash SV, which means service scan, then dash T4. So to increase the speed during the scanning, then we specify our IP address 192.168.8.103. Right. So we're going to run the scan. So I think I'm just going to open other sessions and try and run the scan concurrently. Let me do this. So right now we are still going to run another scan, but this time we are going to run an Nmap scan that we scan for any form of, let's say, do like a default vulnerability scan on that network, on the Active Directory. So Nmap, right? Then we do a script scan to scan for vulnerabilities. Generally, so let's check our first scan. I think, okay, still running. And okay, sorry. Okay, so let me move this. Okay, so I guess our scan is still running. Okay, so our first scan is out. The results we can see from the scan, the list of ports, the states. These are list of open ports, the services running on those ports, and the version. You can see we have 52, which is DNS. We can see port 80, HTTP. So from this scan results, I have some pointers showing that this is a domain controller, one of which we can see Kerberos service running on port 88. So because of course you agree with me that endpoints, normal endpoints would not, you won't have Kerberos running on service running on endpoints. So we can see Kerberos service. This is a pointer that is a domain an Active Directory. We can also see our LDAP, Microsoft Active Directory. These services are a pointer telling us that this, of course, could be a domain controller, an Active Directory. You know, we can see what else. We can take a look at some other open services. You can see LDAP here. We can also see that we have ports 135, 139, 389, and 445. We can see this is telling us this is a Microsoft Windows server. It could be between 2.8 or to 2012. So this basically is an indication that it could be a, what's it called, an Active Directory server. Especially because I can see Kerberos running on it. So the next thing we have to do, let's take a look at. So of course, we have to take notes of our open ports. So a good thing is for us to try and copy, take a note of this, and we can put it on a notepad. So these are first scan, we can drop it on a notepad. Then we take a look at the other Nmap scan that's checking for vulnerability on that particular IP. Where is it? Okay, so it's not Sorry. Okay, so we have this, then we have, okay, I think this is still running. Okay, just a few minutes. Let's wait for it. Okay. It seems we can see that SMB protocol port 139, 445 is open. We could also try go further to run an SMB scan to see if there's any form of vulnerability. So we'll do that by running nmap dash script, right? That's SMB. So that's SMB. There are a lot of SMB scanning scripts from nmap. So instead of running them one at a time, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to use the star. I'm going to use the star here, right, to indicate you should run all SMB vulnerability scan on this IP address. So of course, we are going to indicate -p, -p, which means the ports. So, but we are not scanning all ports right now. We're just scanning port 139, right, and also port 443, 445, right, because they are open. Then we specify our IP address, which is .103. Right. So I noticed a good thing that that's on the latest version of Kali is that it's helped you to complete your certain commands, which is a very good one. So let's take a look at, let's run the scan. So let's take a look at our other scan. Okay, so it's still running. Okay, guys, so we have our results from the scanning. So let's take a look at our result. You can see this of course, are the ports that are open. Let's see if there's any form of vulnerability. You can see state showing vulnerable, right? So you can see that the machine is vulnerable to the popular MS17010. That is a remote code vulnerability that exists in SMB version 1 servers. So it's a good discovery. So we are going to look at how we can exploit this vulnerability. So for now, just take a look at try and take a record of our reports. So I'm just going to do this just keep. Okay, so that is scan. So just make a report about it. So, okay, guys, the major discovery from what we've scanned so far is that the Active Directory is vulnerable, and this is what's it's actually vulnerable to, what's it called, SMB version 1 remote code vulnerability. So let's just take note of that. So while we wait for, let's see if other result is out. So okay, good. So the result of our vulnerability scan from nmap is also out. Of course, we already know some of these details. List of open ports and the service running on them. Okay, so from this scan, we are also seeing that the server has other vulnerabilities that is related to transport layer security, that's CLS, right? Also, If we scroll down, you could see, you could also see that there's also a state vulnerable here, right? So these are certain vulnerabilities we need to take a look at and see how we can exploit them. Right. So let me just okay. So I'll just try to put them also in our list. Okay, and then just specify that easily. Okay. So a good one that we saw so far was the MS1701. So let's take a look at that vulnerability and see how we could exploit that vulnerability. So a good thing to do first would be to do some research on what that vulnerability is all about, and if it's something that could be exploited. So we're just going to do a Google search on that. Let me, so don't forget. So MS1701. So I'm just going to extract it. So we could check on exploits DB. We could check, we could check on other articles to see if this is vulnerable and exploit. Okay, so this exploit is related to Eternal Blue. It is also a form of exploit that was used during WannaCry. So let's see, because I've noticed that recent servers, even though they don't have, they have certain XMB exploits. It's because they are not legacy operating system. It's all still going to be very difficult to bypass them. Okay, so from what we are seeing so far, there's information for us to run an exploit on it. So we could just take a look at some of them, what is available, so this is exploits DB, right? So it's always a good place to check. Okay, so we can see from Rapid7 giving us some procedures to run, to exploit this vulnerability. So let's go on. Let's go on. I think this simply means we are going to use, I can see MSF. This means we can use, of course, Metasploit to run certain this vulnerability. So, okay, sorry. Okay, so this exploits DB. This exploit DB. So as you can see, it's a remote code execution vulnerability. Okay. Okay, so our from our scan, we're able to gather that our operating system is what's it called? Windows Server 2012. So it has also been tested on 2012. So it's so this is giving us a hint to go ahead. Okay, so let's jump on the next stage. So next thing we'll be doing, right, is to go back to our lab and to okay. Okay, so these are nmap scan. I think we are running what's it called? We are running an SMB scan. Okay, yeah, this is our SMB scan that we ran, and that's where we discover that we have this. So next thing we are going to do is to pop up Metasploit, which I've done. I think one of these console. Okay, yeah. So this is Metasploit. So of course we can also do a search. So the first thing we are going to do, what I did was to run MSF console to pop up Metasploit. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to search for MS17, right? So let's take a look at, because that's the vulnerability that we have. So this is also to help us confirm that Metasploit have certain modules that can be used to exploit that vulnerabilities, right? So we have like about 11 of them that could be used, you know. So what I want to do first is to use Metasploit to confirm that this, the machine, to also do like confirmation that the active directory is vulnerable to this attack. So what I'll do is this: I'll run a scanner. So Metasploit have certain modules. We have auxiliary modules, we have exploit, we have payload. So I'm going to use the auxiliary module, which is one of them, one of these. Let me see which one I'm going to use. I'm going to run an auxiliary scan. Okay, so I will use okay, just a minute. Again, we have auxiliary. This MSS square. This is auxiliary scanner. So yeah, I'm going to use 4. See, auxiliary scanner SMB, right? Because SMB protocol is also open, right? So let's do that. So next thing we're going to do, use option 4, right? Okay, so we are loaded the module, the auxiliary scan module for MS17010. So the next thing we're going to do an option to see what is available for us to set. We can see these are various options, and this also shows if they are required. We can see if they are required for us to set, for us to run this exploit. So we can see that remote port is already set to 445, which is open. Remote host, we are going to set our remote host. It's not set already, so set remote host, right, to 192.168.8.103. That great. So our remote host is set. You can check that by running option command. You can see that remote host is set, right? And also, what else? Yeah, okay, the thread is already set. Remote port, remote host. Okay, so right now, very easy. We can just run our exploit to see. So Metasploit will run this model against the IP address. So you can see host is likely vulnerable, right? So this is also helping us confirm that the host, of course, is vulnerable. So the next thing we are going to do right now is how do we exploit this vulnerability. So the next thing is to run. The next thing for us now is to use the exploit module. Let's go back to our search MS17. All right. So let's see which of the exploit module we are going to leverage on for this exploit. So we have certain exploit modules. Yeah, we have exploit SMB eternal bleed, right? You can see the rank average. Yeah, it has been checked, of course. Okay, so for this, I would be using the module 2 as exploits Windows SMB PSSX. This seems the rank is normal, better than the average. So guys, I'm just going to use the normal one, which is of course higher than this average in terms of the ranking. So let me just, of course, you could try as much anyone as you can use, so that is the beautiful thing about pen tests. You can try as much to see which of them could help you, exploit the vulnerabilities that are found. So for this, I'm just going to use 2, as you can see, 012. So using this guy, BPS exec guy. Okay, so I'm going to use just two, right? Okay. So use two. Okay, so we see we've changed the model have changed from the normal scan to exploit, right? So now let's take a look at, sorry, the options available for us to set. You can see we have options that are available for us to set, guys. From here, we have the required ones. Yeah. Okay, remote host is not set. Remote port is already set to 445. Share is set to admin, right? Then, okay, SMB domain user, these are not required. So let's just go on with the required one. So I'm just going to do this set remote host. So of course, the IP address of the target that we're using, which is 192.168.8.103, right? So we'll set our remote host. Right now, we're also going to set, okay, let me go back to the option to see what is available. Okay, so local host, let me reconfirm the local host. So I'm going to do this set. Yeah, so we can see that local host is set to the IP address. Sorry. Okay, so we can see that the IP address, the local host is set to the IP address of the target machine of the Kali, which is .101, right? So set local host, right? So sometimes I just want to be sure that I reconfirm that there's the local host is, okay. Then the ports, so just going to do L ports, right? Then specify the ports. Here we have 444, right? Okay. So now, yeah, don't forget we've not specified our payload. So if the payload is the attacker's code that is majorly used, to carry out certain attacks on the victim. So like I said, the Metasploit is made up of exploits, payload, and these are the various modules that can be used. So I'm going to set a payload. As you can see, it's giving me a payload option to use. So reverse TCP. So I'm going to set that the payload to reverse TCP, right? So I'm going to do this. Set payload. Then you could, if you want to see the options, the available payload that we have, you can just show payload, right? To see what payloads are available. Payloads are available for, okay. So I think it shouldn't contain X. Let's see. Well, show, is it shows? Okay, I think it's show, not shows. Show payload. Okay. So we're going to be using, okay, so we have this list of payload that can be used, within Metasploit. So for this, you could review this payload and see and test them one at a time, right, guys? So for now, I'm going to make use of the reverse TCP payload. So Windows. So as you can see from the options that we have here. So, but because we are trying to exploit SMB protocol, let me look out if we have a payload that's close to SMB. So we have Windows, payload Windows, meterpreter. So I'm just going to look out for payload within the SMB. Okay. So we have SMB. So just a minute. Yeah, this is P. Okay. We have X. So trying to look out for if we have any payload for SMB. Okay. So guys, so don't forget, since we are using x64-bit operating system, so we have to be careful to ensure that our payload that we're going to load is compatible, right? So I'm going to use a reverse TCP payload, which is this. So let me try and copy this out. So I'll be using this payload. Okay, so right now, what I'll do is to set the format is set, then you specify the payload. So payload, then you paste it. Okay, so let's go back to, we can at this point do option to see if all is fine, guys. So okay, so we're able to see the payload option that was given to us, and we have set the payload, as you can see, right? Okay. Now, after setting the payload, now I think every other options that are required is set. We have our remote host support. Okay, so at this point, we'll run our exploit. Right. So we're just going to do exploit, and we are hopeful that we could get a shell. Okay. So, okay, good, guys, we are in. You can see that we have one shell opened. So this is the target IP address using the port, and this is our victim IP address. We have a shell. So how do I know it's opened, guys? So I'm going to, you can see the host name is the host name of the domain controller, the C1, right? So we are going to start to do our enumeration. So the first thing we are going to do is the local recon based on our attack key chain that we saw. So since we have been able to compromise the machine, so let's take a look at the network information of the domain controller. So of course, we're going to do config ipconfig, right, /all. So you're able to see, okay, the host name, you can see the primary DNS, jovo.local, right? We could also take a look at and see that GCP is enabled, the gateway, right? The DNS server installed, right? So this is giving us some basic information about the network config, right? So let's take a look at, okay, who are display the current users and see their SID, their privilege or groups that are available. So we're going to do a who am I /all. Okay, so this is also giving us information about the current user, you can see that this is a command we ran. You can see the user currently logged in as NT system user. This is the SID, right? These are the group currently that the system user belongs to. These are the various privileges, you know. So this information, of course, should be captured, stored, you know, and evaluated for further analysis. So right now, I'm also going to take a look at to view the local admins that we have on this server. So I'm going to run a net local admin. Let's see. Let's local group, right? Net local group. So let's see, do we have any? Okay, so let me specify an admin. Oh, sorry. I think you can't recall your previous command, so you just have to type it all. Group. You can see this is it. So we're going to say admins. Let's see if it's going to enumerate the list of net local group admins. Okay. I think we can. So what we'll do is this. Let me see if we can net local group. Let me put this in bracket. Oh, come on. Administrator. Let me write it in full. Administrator. Yeah. Then like this. Oh, guys. So they're able to enumerate the list of local admins. You could see these are the names of local admins on the DC, that domain controller. Let's take a look at the display, the list of application and services, you know, and if possible, the process ID running. So we are going to do that with tax links, right? Tax list -v variables to see a lot of information. So guys, this is also giving us the list of services, application running currently, right, on the DC. Their process ID, right? You could see the username that's running these the services currently, right? You could take a look at. So these are to gather to do some sort of local recon. You could see apart from the entity system, we could also see that we have a user that's also running certain services, right? On the system, the DC, right? Partial, VLAN. Okay. Okay, so what else can we look out for during our local recon? So I think basically these are some few information that we could gather. So let's take a look at now. The next stage is network recon. Let's do a network recon on the DC. So the first we are going to run is to list existing group in the domain. Let's see net group. We're going to do /domain. Okay, so this is also information about the list of, what's it called? The list of existing groups that we have within the domain controller. We can see that we have domain admins, domain computers, you see domain users, you know, enterprise admins. So this is beginning to give us some idea of what exactly is configured, the resources that are configured within the Active Directory, you know, and we going to taking our time to exploit, to enumerate this information. So the next thing we are going to do is to list members of a particular group. So let's take, for example, the let's take, for example, the what's it called, the domain guests or the domain users or the domain admins, right? Let's list the members in the domain admin. So we are going to do that. To do that, we are going to say the net group, right? Then we are going to specify the group name. So to specify the group name, we are going to do this. I think let's do this first, then domain admin. So let me just put in domain admin, right? And put all in bracket. You can see these are the list of domain admins that we have. You can see their names, right? So these are informations that we've gathered, and that help us understand the visibility about our network. What are the domain admins that we need to go after? Which form of credential do we need to dump? Which access are we looking for? So these are informations that are needed during enumeration stage, right? So also, what else can we do? So we can also get members of built-in groups, for example, administrators now. So let's see built-in group. We have certain built-in groups within the domain controller. So to do that, we are going to run net local group. Then we're going to state what we have here is okay. So I'm going to do net local group. Then sure, okay, because these are all domain groups that we have listed here. Let me see if we do net local group. Do we have the list of? Okay, so we don't currently have any list of local groups, so I'm just going to leave that. Let's see, to list all users within a domain. So how do we list all users within a particular domain? That is what we've just done. So what we did was to, okay, so what we did initially was to list all, so the list of what's it called, the user members, sorry, the list of members in a particular domain as well. So now what we're going to do is to list users, right? We're going to list users within a particular domain. So I'm going to do net users. Then let me see, net user. Okay, let's see domain users. Domain users, right? I think this is in domain users, right? So net users, domain users slash domain. Okay, net users slash. Okay, so what we have in net user, this the username could not be found. Oh, sorry. Okay, so sorry, net user. Okay, so what I want to do is the username. Okay, so this is giving us more information about specific users, right, within the domain. So you can do this for all the users you have. You can do a net user. I have, I think from the list I have, okay. I have, I think, okay. So this is giving us information about the specific user, username. It's giving us the password information based on password policy on the Active Directory. So you can see the local group membership of the users, right? The global group membership of the users, right? So which group they belong to. So this is more of gathering information about the list of users' computers, within the Active Directory, So of course, apart from users and groups, what else can we look out for? Let's see how we can check access to share resources. So what we'll do is to run a net use. So this is giving us, okay, currently we have the user accounts that we have, but so let me see. I think the command should be net share. Okay, yeah. So net share. So this gives us the list of, right, the list of shared resources that we have on the Active Directory. Because you can see the admin share. You could see a particular folder. It's also being shared. You can see 6 volume I talked about the other time, right? That is, it's a shared folder within the Active Directory. You can see contains certain scripts. So these are informations that the attackers could also pay attention to, right, after compromising a particular system, right? So what else can we look out to? So apart from enumerating to see existing information, can we create users? Can we create groups? So let's see if we can add a group. So now I want to add to establish persistency. So I'm going to do net group, right? I'm going to add a group. So I'm going to call the group name. Let me see, make it font. How do I put it? So I'm going to put it, okay, let me just call it hackers group, guys. I don't have any suggestion of any names right now. Okay. So net group. So we are creating a group, hackers group, and I'm going to do this. Yeah. Okay, so you can see that I've been able to add the group. So if we try and do this, net group, slash domain, you can see hackers group is also listed, right? So we've been able to create a group, and we can also create users and put them in that group. So other things that attackers could do is to create a user and put that user in the domain admin, group, So basically is to find a way to, some sort of way to elevate privilege, and have more access or permission to run certain application within the domain controller, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a user. So to create a user, I'm going to go on with the same command, net group, right? Net group. Then I'm going to say so net group. Then you specify the username and the password. So I'm just going to put it as let's see, Java. Let's see how. Come on, guy. What should I put? User Niger. I'm going to see Niger. Right. I'm going to see Niger, and the password, just specify any password for it, right? Then put add. Okay. Oh, sorry. I said group. Sorry. So I think I need to change that. It should be user. So net user, Niger. Then specify password that you want to give it. Right. Then you put in your add, guys. Okay, so we've been able to create a user. So what next we're going to do is to add that user to a domain group, right? So don't forget, guys, we are currently working on the system. We are currently remoting to the domain controller because we've been able to exploit the vulnerability we found during our Nmap scan. And that is why we are able to have access to the domain controller. So this is this is trying to show us that we have to pay very close attention to the security controls that we place on our domain controller, because it could be easily accessed. And if the domain controller is accessed, all sorts of sensitive information could be exfiltrated, right? So what I'm trying to do is to establish a backdoor. So to do that, I've created a user. So I'm going to kind of put, assign that user to an existing group that we have. So you can see the list of groups that we have. So I'm going to try and assign that user to, let me say, enterprise admin, right? Enterprise admin. Let's say enterprise admin. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to net group, sorry, net group, and the group name, which is enterprise admin, enterprise, right? Enterprise admins, right? So I'm going to do this. Then I think I need to put this guy in. Okay. That group, the group name, then the username, which is Niger that we created. Niger, right? Then I'm gonna specify /add, then / the domain. Right. Okay, so the next group, I think might need to put this in brace. Copy. Oh, sorry. Looking out for a way not to write it again. Group. Okay, so I'm going to put this in brace, enterprise, right? Enterprise admins, right? Then we'll close these guys. Then specify the username, which is Niger. Then we're going to do this, add, then specify guy. So also specify the domain /domain. Okay, guys, so you can see that we've successfully added the Niger user that we created to the domain, to the enterprise admin group, right? So all these we're doing remotely, guys. So apart from this, there's also a possibility for us to dump certain files. On the domain controller, one of the most important files is situated, it's called the ntds.dit, right? So I'm just going to go to the domain controller that we have. Okay, so we are going to confirm if we have the user on the domain controller. So let me just log in. So I'm just sorry. Yeah. Okay, so these are domain controller. I'm going to just try and reinitiate that. So like I was saying, one of the most important credentials that we could have on the Active Directory, that it is the ntds.dit. It is used to store data files and hashes. Basically all information of the Active Directory is stored on that part, and it is located on the Windows, right? It is located here, guys, ntds. So this information also is very important, right? You see, this is where all the information of the Active Directory is stored, right? So attackers could find a way to dump that credential and exfiltrate it, right? So, okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to run a command also that we could use. Okay, so I want to open the Active Directory users so that we can confirm the list of users we created remotely. Okay. Okay. We are going to take a look at. Okay, so what we did was we created certain user. You can see we created a user called Niger, right? And we placed that user in the enterprise unit group. Let's go back to the user. It's a member of enterprise admin. You can see. So that is what we did remotely from here. This is the user we created, right? You can see we went on to create a user. Sorry. Yeah, look at it. We're able to create a user. Then we're able to add the user to an enterprise domain group, which is what we can see here remotely. And you can see without even having access, don't forget, we don't even know the password of the domain at this point. That we don't know the password. All we are doing is from Kali is remote access because of an exploit that was discovered. So like I said, it's very important that we keep patching, very priority for our Active Directory, right? So this is it, guys. This is it. So I was talking about the ntds file, which is one of the most important file within the Active Directory. So I'm just going to look out for have a script that we could run, right, to dump that particular folder, right, from our attacker's machine. So that's what we're going to do and see if that will also be successful. So I'm going to paste it here. The script, the command is using PowerShell. Then it's using the ntds.dit.exe. It's a tool that can be used to dump the ntds.dit credentials files. So I'm going to run this. It's going to take just a few moments. All right. So apart from this, what else can we enumerate on the Active Directory, guys? So we could go on to look out for active remote desktop that's on the Active Directory. And at this point, we could also leverage tools like opening PowerShell from we can open PowerShell via the CMD, right? And we'll be able to invoke mimikatz to dump credentials. So there's also that possibility to dump credentials, right? So as you can see, we've been able to use the command to dump, right? One of the most important file that contains credentials hashes in, just like this SAM file those days on legacy Microsoft operating system, the security account manager file, right? So this is for the Active Directory, it is called the ntdx. So currently you can see that apart from the ntds file, it's also the script is the command is also able to copy registry. You can see system and security registry and store them successfully in the ctemp folder, right? So if we go to the Active Directory and we try to, you can see that this exists. It's just created just now. If you go onto it, you are able to see that we've been able to dump this. You can see been able to dump this, and it could be exfiltrated. You can, yes, out of the Active Directory, it could be used to create a clone Active Directory, right, within your network, right? So these are some of the things that we could do during enumeration phase. Guys, thanks for your time. Meet me in the next phase. Thank you.